Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
He was humiliated by the girl he loved, and 2 years later, he took brutal revenge. Ethan sat alone at his desk, glancing around the office until his gaze landed on Lucy. A mix of shyness and a bit of hope filled his heart. To him, Lucy was the perfect woman, intelligent, beautiful, and brimming with confidence. She was like a flame, always shining brightly wherever she went, while Ethan felt like a faint shadow, always lingering in the background. "Ethan, you seem deep in thought today, don't you?" Nathan, his close co-worker, teased, patting him lightly on the shoulder. "Don't tell me you're daydreaming about your muse again." Ethan blushed, shaking his head slightly. No. It's just, do you think Lucy would ever notice me?" Nathan smiled sympathetically. "You're a good guy, Ethan. But sometimes, love needs more than just goodness." But Ethan didn't want to give up. Maybe he wasn't as impressive or attractive as other men in the office, but he believed that his genuine heart would eventually make Lucy notice him. Many nights, he thought about the moment he would finally have the confidence to stand in front of Lucy and confess his feelings. One afternoon, as Ethan was lost in his thoughts, a soft voice snapped him out of his daydream. "Ethan, are you busy?" Lucy was standing right in front of him, smiling gently. Ethan fumbled for a moment, trying to stay calm. "Oh, no, I'm not busy." "Is something going on, Lucy?" "Well, this Friday evening, there's a company gala. Would you like to go with me?" Lucy's voice was soft yet alluring, and in that moment, Ethan couldn't believe his ears. Was Lucy really inviting him? Ethan held back his excitement, replying with a serious tone. "Of course. I'd be delighted to go with you." Lucy nodded, her eyes carrying a mysterious glint. "Great. I'll wait for you in the lobby at 8 p.m. Make sure to dress up a little." After Lucy walked away, Nathan noticed Ethan's unusual behavior as he kept smiling to himself. "What's up with you?" Nathan asked, raising an eyebrow. "You won't believe this," Ethan said, excitement in his voice. "Lucy just invited me to the gala with her." Nathan forced a smile, a hint of concern in his eyes. "Are you sure, Ethan? I mean, Lucy has never really been friendly with you like that before. Isn't there something a bit strange about it?" Ethan laughed, brushing off the doubts. "Maybe she's noticed something in me, Nathan. She's finally realized that I'm truly sincere about her." Nathan didn't want to shatter his friend's happiness, but he couldn't shake a feeling of doubt. He'd always sensed a bit of cruelty and arrogance in Lucy. But maybe this time would be different, he told himself. All week, Ethan dedicated himself to preparing for the gala. He worked out diligently, even joining a gym to improve his physique. He wanted to look perfect in Lucy's eyes. Each night, he would look at himself in the mirror, imagining how she would be surprised by his transformation. When the day of the gala finally arrived, Ethan carefully chose his most elegant suit. He smiled confidently at his reflection in the mirror. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Tonight would be the night Lucy realized he was the one she should be with. Nathan looked at Ethan in his suit, shrugging slightly. "I hope everything turns out the way you hope, Ethan. But remember, don't put too many expectations on her." Ethan just smiled, optimistic. "I know, Nathan. But this time, I really feel like she wants to give me a chance." At 8 p.m., Ethan arrived at the gala lobby, his heart pounding. He entered the grand space filled with glittering lights and soft music. He scanned the room, looking for Lucy's silhouette. And then he saw her, standing across the room, radiant in a stunning evening gown. Ethan felt like his heart stopped. He slowly made his way toward her, preparing his most sincere smile. But as he reached her, a laugh from Lucy's group of friends startled him. "Oh, look. Ethan really knows how to dress up," a mocking voice came from behind him. Lucy's co-workers burst into laughter as they looked at him, their eyes filled with disdain. Ethan felt uncomfortable, but Lucy only offered a faint smile, saying nothing. Her eyes held a mysterious glint, as if she were hiding something. In that moment, Ethan felt incredibly small, as though he was nothing more than a joke for everyone. Ethan felt his heart ache as he stood there, realizing the mocking laughter was directed at him. He tried to stay calm, telling himself that maybe he was overthinking. But the harsh reality was in the stares, the sneers from his colleagues, all aimed at him. Lucy stood there, still smiling as if she hadn't noticed Ethan's discomfort at all. Rather than seeming bothered by the teasing, she just glanced at him briefly and then turned back to chat with her friends, laughing and enjoying herself. "Lucy, is this your friend?" a male coworker named Alex asked, eyeing Ethan from head to toe with a smirk. "Did you invite him to liven up the atmosphere?" Lucy laughed, pretending to shake her head. "He's just a colleague, Alex. A very hard-working and honest person." "Honest? Ha! Yes, a very honest man," Marta, another colleague, chimed in with a sarcastic tone. "He seems so simple, like he could never break a single rule." Ethan, embarrassed, gave a weak smile, unsure of how to respond to the blatant mockery. He thought of saying something to defend himself, but Lucy quickly changed the subject, completely ignoring his presence. Nathan saw Ethan from afar and hurried over. He couldn't help feeling worried as he witnessed this scene. "Ethan, are you okay?" Nathan asked, his voice full of concern. Ethan forced a weak smile, trying to hide his disappointment. "I'm fine, Nathan. Maybe I just need some time to get used to everyone." Nathan shook his head and pulled Ethan aside, away from Lucy's group. "Listen, Ethan. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I have a bad feeling about those people, especially Lucy." Ethan looked at Nathan, his eyes filled with sadness. "But Nathan, I've put a lot of feelings into her. I always thought that maybe she just needed time to realize." "You might be fooling yourself, my friend," Nathan interrupted, unable to hold back. "People like Lucy usually only care about appearances, glamour, and attention from others. She doesn't deserve your kindness." Ethan fell silent, saying nothing, and looked back at Lucy from afar. Even though his heart was in turmoil from Nathan's words, he wasn't ready to let go of the special feelings he had for Lucy. As the party continued, Lucy approached Ethan, this time alone. She smiled with a mysterious look, scanning him from head to toe. "Ethan, why are you standing here alone? Don't be shy, come join everyone and have fun, won't you?" Ethan looked awkward and tried to smile. "Ah. I just didn't want to bother anyone." Lucy laughed, looking at him with a hint of sarcasm. "How could you be a bother? You're the most harmless person here, right?" Her words made Ethan feel like he was rooted in place. The feeling of being belittled rose within him, but he still tried to hold it back. "Yeah, you're right. I just wanted to keep my distance so everyone could be comfortable." Lucy shrugged and walked away without another word, leaving Ethan standing there feeling abandoned and humiliated. He felt like he had just become a joke in a play he wasn't even aware of. As the night went on, the mocking and laughter about Ethan grew increasingly public. Some colleagues even started daring each other to approach Ethan to tease him. A group led by Alex and Marta purposely came over to Ethan, as if they had just been waiting to mock him further. "Alex, do you think Ethan looks handsome?" Marta laughed loudly, her tone full of sarcasm. "Oh, yes, Ethan looks completely different today," Alex said, laughing loudly. "Are you planning to enter a beauty contest or something?" Ethan felt his anger rising but still tried to stay calm. He was about to walk away when Lucy appeared right beside him. She looked at him, her eyes seeming to wait for his reaction, almost as if she was in on the joke. "Ethan, aren't you having fun?" Lucy asked, her voice soft but with a sharp edge. Ethan looked at her, his eyes full of disappointment. "I just wanted to fit in, but it seems like I don't really belong here." Lucy shrugged, giving a cold smile. Maybe you should change a bit. Who knows, maybe then everyone will accept you more. Alex and Marta burst out laughing. Ethan felt crushed, like he was a toy in their hands. He said nothing more and quietly left the party, trying hard not to let his tears fall. Nathan followed after Ethan, trying to comfort his friend. Ethan, don't let them hurt you. They're not worth your sadness. Ethan looked down, his voice full of sorrow. But Nathan, I just wanted to be accepted. I just wanted Lucy to see me as a real person. Nathan put a hand on Ethan's shoulder, his eyes empathetic. You don't need to change for people who don't appreciate you, Ethan. Ethan remained silent, but inside, his disappointment and sorrow were slowly turning into a simmering anger, a feeling he had never experienced before. After that humiliating night at the party, Ethan felt the pain gnawing at him every second. He couldn't sleep all night as the mocking laughter of Alex, Marta, and especially Lucy's cold gaze haunted him endlessly. The more he thought about it, the more he felt betrayed by the very person he had once admired. The next morning, Ethan entered the office with a somber face. He intended to work quietly and avoid mentioning the previous night's party. But as soon as he placed his briefcase on the desk, a group of colleagues snickered and turned to look at him. Ethan, you really shone last night. Alex laughed, pretending to be serious. I've never seen anyone with such unique charisma as you. Ethan suppressed his anger, lowered his head, and tried to ignore them. But the mocking words didn't stop. Marta, sitting right next to Lucy, even raised her voice. Oh, Ethan, that suit suited you well. But next time, remember to hire a style guide, so people aren't shocked like last night. Marta said, glancing at Lucy and giving a mischievous smile. Lucy just smiled without saying anything, but her gaze seemed to tacitly agree with all of her colleagues' taunts. Ethan felt his heart twist as if Lucy had just stabbed him in the heart with a dagger. Nathan, watching everything from his desk, couldn't stand it any longer. He stood up and walked over to the group mocking Ethan. You guys are so cruel. Nathan said, his voice filled with fury. Why do you hurt others just because they're different? Do you think that laughing at Ethan makes you better than him? Alex shrugged, smirking dismissively. Hey, Nathan, we were just having a little fun. Ethan should feel lucky to be noticed. Nathan clenched his teeth, turning to look at Ethan with empathetic, emotional eyes. Ethan, don't let them hurt you. You don't need to listen to any of this. But Ethan just stood in silence, not responding. He felt like he had become invisible, like no one really cared about his feelings. Even though Nathan stood up to defend him, Ethan still felt weak, unable to defend himself. After work, when everyone had left the office, Lucy suddenly appeared in front of Ethan. She smiled, a smile that had a hint of insincerity and arrogance. Ethan, you're not mad at me, are you? She asked, her voice gentle but full of sarcasm. It was all just a joke, you shouldn't take it so seriously. Ethan looked up at her, his eyes filled with both hurt and anger. Lucy, why did you do that? I thought you really wanted me to come to the party. Lucy shrugged, scoffing. I just wanted to help you shine in front of everyone. You should be grateful that at least people remembered you for one night. Who told you to be so quiet and boring all the time? Her words cut into Ethan's heart like a sharp knife. She truly had no remorse for what had happened. On the contrary, she saw it as a funny joke, a way to entertain her friends. I don't think I deserve to be treated like this, Lucy, Ethan said, his voice filled with pain as he tried to remain calm. I just want to be accepted, to be seen as a regular person, not a joke. Lucy chuckled softly, shaking her head. Ethan, you're taking things too seriously. This is the corporate world, everyone has to know how to protect themselves. If you can't handle a little teasing, how can you survive? Ethan felt despair, realizing that the woman he had once secretly loved was not who he thought she was. She was cold, ruthless, and only cared about her own interests. As Lucy turned and walked away, Ethan could no longer hold back. He felt like he'd been pushed to the edge of suffering and humiliation. He had always believed that kindness and sincerity would be rewarded. But all he got in return was contempt and unbearable pain. Nathan, who had always stood by Ethan, gently patted his shoulder. "Ethan, I know you're in a lot of pain, but don't let them break you. People like Lucy aren't worth the sacrifice of your feelings." Ethan nodded slightly, but inside, he couldn't shake the anguish. He knew that if he continued like this, he would forever be a victim of their cruel jokes and disdain. Nathan's words were comforting, but they couldn't erase the pain burning within him. That night, when he returned home, Ethan sat alone in the dark room, lost in thought. He looked into the mirror, asking himself what he had done wrong, why he had become the target of such cruel jokes. Inside, the feeling of betrayal and humiliation grew stronger. He had never experienced pain like this before, a pain that not only hurt his heart but also crushed his pride. He recalled every moment from the party, Lucy's gaze, the mocking laughter, everything seemed to burn him from the inside. The next day, Ethan walked into the office looking weary and gloomy. Despite his efforts to suppress it, the humiliation from the previous night's party clung to him, making it impossible to focus on work. All the words, the scornful glances from everyone, and especially Lucy's cutting laughter kept echoing in his mind, tormenting him little by little. As soon as he sat down at his desk, he heard murmurs from his colleagues. Marta and Alex began their familiar taunts, this time even more openly and maliciously. "Hey, Ethan. Did you have a good time going home last night?" Alex called out loudly, laughing so everyone could hear. Ethan remained silent, his head bowed, trying to ignore them. But Marta, sitting next to Alex, kept mocking him. "Oh, he must have had a great time. Who would have guessed he'd be the center of attention at the party?" Marta said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "A night to remember, right, Ethan?" Ethan didn't respond, but the pain and disappointment were evident on his face. He couldn't understand why people were so intent on hurting him. He hadn't harmed anyone, hadn't bothered anyone. Yet they still chose him as the target of their cruel jokes. Nathan, his only friend, stepped up, trying to defend Ethan once again. "Enough. Don't you feel any shame ganging up to bully someone?" Nathan said, his voice firm. "Why can't you just leave Ethan alone? He hasn't done anything wrong." Alex shrugged, smirking. "Oh, Nathan, why are you taking this so seriously? It's all just a joke. If Ethan can't handle it, how's he supposed to survive in the corporate world?" Marta chimed in, sneering. "That's right, Nathan. Sometimes you need to be a little tough. Ethan is just too weak, can't even handle a bit of teasing." Nathan turned to Ethan, placing a supportive hand on his shoulder, his eyes full of empathy. "Ethan, don't let them get to you. People like them only feel powerful when they exploit others' weaknesses." Ethan remained silent, his heart heavy. He knew Nathan was right, but the pain and humiliation inside him were overwhelming, not something that could easily be dismissed. Lucy approached, holding a cup of coffee, looking at Ethan with a cold stare. "Ethan, are you okay? I figured you hadn't forgotten about that night yet, right?" Ethan looked up at her, meeting her gaze, trying to suppress the pain in his eyes. "Lucy, why did you do that? Why did you make me the punchline for everyone?" Lucy shrugged, offering a hollow smile. "Don't you get it? I just wanted to have a little fun that night. Nobody forced you to take it seriously." Alex and Marta burst out laughing, as if Lucy's words were the funniest thing they had ever heard. Ethan felt his blood boiling, but he tried to hold back, not wanting to cause more trouble. "Is your fun worth someone else's suffering, Lucy?" Ethan asked, his voice hoarse with anger. Lucy looked at him coldly, as if he were a stranger. "Ethan, you're just too sensitive. This is a company, not a place where everyone's emotions have to be coddled or considered. You have to understand, nobody here cares about anyone else's feelings. Her words pierced Ethan's heart like a dagger. Not only did she feel no remorse, but she also seemed to view his pain as entirely normal. He felt as if he was being pushed into a dark abyss, losing all hope and faith in the goodness he had once believed in. Nathan, furious, turned to Lucy. "Don't you see how cruel you're being, Lucy? Ethan doesn't deserve to be treated this way. You haven't even considered how he might feel." Lucy sneered, looking at Nathan with disdain. "Nathan, you're too soft-hearted. This is the real world, not a place for the weak. If Ethan can't handle it, he should just bow out." Nathan looked at Ethan with regret and disappointment. He knew his friend was in a state of despair, but he also understood that he couldn't push Ethan to face things he wasn't ready for. At the end of the day, after everyone had left the office, Ethan sat alone, quietly looking out the window. Outside, the sky was gray, raindrops pattering as if sharing his sadness. He felt like a failure, worthless in the eyes of others. Nathan sat down beside him, silent for a while before speaking. "Ethan, I know you're in so much pain, but I believe you can get through this. Don't let them make you lose yourself." Ethan shook his head slightly, his voice bitter. "I don't even know who I am anymore, Nathan. I used to think that if I were sincere and kind, people would understand me. But now I realize that maybe it was all just naive ideas I made up." Nathan gripped Ethan's shoulder tightly, his voice resolute. "You are a good person, Ethan. Don't let those cruel people destroy who you are. If you can't stay here, then find a place where you're valued, somewhere you truly deserve." Ethan looked at his friend, filled with gratitude but also despair. He didn't know if he had the strength to overcome this pain, but Nathan's words sparked a tiny light within him, a faint hope that someday he could regain his self-respect. In the days following the party, Ethan's life in the office became more suffocating than ever. He felt that all eyes were on him, not out of care but with mocking, pity, or even contempt. No matter how he tried to ignore it, the whispers, the sneering smiles from his colleagues surrounded him. One morning, as Ethan focused on the stack of documents on his desk, he heard a voice from afar, deliberately loud enough for him to hear. "Hey, Marta, did you hear the news? Apparently, Ethan has a crush on someone in the office." Alex shouted, ensuring everyone could hear. Marta laughed loudly, nodding in agreement. "Really? I wonder who the lucky person is. She must be overjoyed." Alex and Marta exchanged smug smiles, while Ethan kept his head down, trying to concentrate on his work. But they wouldn't leave him alone, continuing to taunt him as if their joke hadn't yet satisfied them. "Lucy, do you want to know who Ethan has a crush on?" Alex turned to Lucy, his mouth curling into a mocking smile. Lucy pretended to be surprised, looking at Alex with fake interest. "Really? I'm curious too. Who's the lucky person?" Alex and Marta chuckled, and then Marta spoke in a challenging tone. "Hey Ethan, why don't you tell Lucy the truth? You've had a crush on her for a while now, haven't you?" The atmosphere grew tense as all eyes turned to Ethan, waiting for his reaction. Lucy stood there, her eyes glinting with curiosity mixed with a hint of amusement, as if she was waiting to see how he would respond. Ethan felt his face flush, looking around awkwardly but not knowing what to say. He had never thought of confessing his feelings this way, in front of so many people, especially with Lucy standing there and the mocking laughter echoing around him. Nathan, the only one angry about the situation, stepped in, his voice sharp. "That's enough. Don't you feel ashamed for making fun of someone's feelings? This is not funny." Lucy turned to Nathan, offering a cold smile, her tone mocking. "Nathan, don't act like it's such a big deal. It's just a joke. Ethan isn't a child, he doesn't need us to handle him with care." Nathan looked directly into Lucy's eyes, unable to hide his anger. "Your joke is too cruel, Lucy. Feelings aren't something to be mocked. You know very well that Ethan isn't like the rest of you, and that's not an excuse to take advantage of him. Lucy shrugged, unconcerned. Maybe you're just too sensitive, Nathan. This is work, not a place for personal emotions. Ethan should learn to toughen up, otherwise, he'll always be the weak one. Ethan heard every word, each of Lucy's cold sentences piercing him like a sharp blade, making him realize that she never had any real feelings for him. She had no regard for the emotions he had held onto for so long. In her eyes, he was nothing more than a joke, a tool for her and others to amuse themselves. He returned to his desk, sitting quietly, too drained to respond or fight back. He was exhausted from the humiliation, from all the cruel jokes they created just to hurt him. He wondered what he had done wrong, why he had to endure all this. When lunchtime came, Nathan invited Ethan out to help him clear his mind. They sat in a small cafe near the office, and the quiet atmosphere made Ethan feel a little lighter. "Ethan, you have to stop this. You can't let them keep tormenting you like this," Nathan said, his tone firm. Ethan looked down, his voice full of disappointment. "Nathan, I don't know what to do. I thought that if I was sincere, they would understand and accept me. But maybe I was wrong." Nathan placed a comforting hand on Ethan's shoulder, his eyes filled with empathy. "You're a good person, Ethan. But some people don't deserve your sincerity. Lucy is not someone worth your feelings. She doesn't understand you, and she doesn't care about you." Ethan sighed, looking out the window. "But I can't stop thinking about her, Nathan. Every time I try to forget, her image keeps coming back, like she's taken over my heart." Nathan gave a sad smile. "Love is strange that way, Ethan. But if love only brings you pain, it's not a love worth keeping. Sometimes, you have to learn to let go to protect yourself." Ethan remained silent, his heart heavy. He knew Nathan was right, but letting go of Lucy wasn't easy. He had put so much hope and feeling into her that he couldn't imagine his life without her presence. After lunch, Ethan returned to the office feeling more exhausted than ever. He sat at his desk, looking at the pile of unfinished work without any motivation to continue. His mind was a whirlwind of emotions, pain, disappointment, and even anger. From afar, he saw Lucy chatting happily with Alex and Marta, showing no concern for what had happened. She laughed loudly, her eyes bright and confident, as if her cruelty was of no consequence. Her laughter only made Ethan feel more insignificant, as if all his efforts and sacrifices had no value in her eyes. Nathan glanced at his friend, his gaze filled with sympathy and worry. He knew Ethan was on the brink of breaking down, which made Nathan despise those who had hurt his friend even more. A year after that unforgettable party, Ethan had completely changed. He was no longer the overweight, timid man who silently endured humiliation. Through perseverance and determination, Ethan transformed himself, becoming stronger and more confident. He worked out diligently, improved his appearance, and focused on personal growth, both in skills and self-assurance. Now, he had not only changed his appearance but also carried the maturity and allure of a man who had grown. Nathan, who had been by his side throughout this transformation, couldn't hide his admiration. "Ethan, you're incredible. I never imagined you could change this much." Ethan smiled confidently. "You know, Nathan, if it weren't for those who mocked me, I might not have had the drive to change like this." Nathan laughed. "You haven't just changed your appearance, you've changed your whole perspective. You make me proud." But Ethan didn't stop there. He planned to return the favor for what Lucy had done to him, not through violence or personal revenge but with a subtle trick. Ethan created a new identity on social media named Vicente, a successful, sophisticated, and wealthy businessman. He used the photo of a business friend, Ricardo, as Vicente's profile picture. Nathan, initially hesitant, couldn't help but smile after hearing Ethan's plan. "You know, this is the smartest revenge I've ever heard of, Ethan. It's just a way to remind Lucy that not everyone is as easy to manipulate as she thinks," Ethan replied, his gaze sharp. By now, Lucy held a higher position in the company, but she still maintained her arrogant, manipulative personality. When Vicente, the fictional character Ethan had created, started following her account on social media and leaving subtle comments, Lucy was immediately drawn in. She spent a lot of time replying to Vicente's messages, thinking she'd found a successful and charming man. Ethan chuckled as he saw Lucy's messages. She had no idea that behind the image of Vicente was the very man she had once hurt so deeply. A few weeks later, Ethan, under the guise of Vicente, invited Lucy to an important event. He skillfully arranged it so she'd believe it was a special meeting where she could finally meet the successful businessman she had long admired. On the day of the event, Lucy dressed to the nines, choosing the best dress in her wardrobe. She anxiously arrived at the designated location, her heart full of hope and expectation that Vicente would be the perfect man she had always dreamed of. Nathan, watching the process unfold from start to finish, couldn't help but laugh. "Ethan, you really know how to keep people on their toes. I think tonight Lucy is in for an unforgettable experience." Ethan smirked. "Yes, Nathan. It's time for her to know what it feels like to be deceived and humiliated in front of everyone." Nathan placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, his eyes filled with admiration. "I never thought you could turn such a sad story into such a memorable lesson for her." When Lucy arrived at the meeting place, she looked around, trying to spot Vicente. But instead of a gentleman, she saw a scruffy homeless man sitting in a nearby corner. All eyes turned to her, as if everyone was waiting to see how she'd react. Lucy was stunned, unable to comprehend what was happening. She tried to stay calm, but the gazes from the people around her made her feel self-conscious. Just then, a waiter approached her, bowed, and said, "Are you Lucy? Vicente left you a message." "Vicente left a message?" Lucy asked, her eyes lighting up with hope. The waiter handed her a small piece of paper. Lucy quickly opened it and read the short note. "I hope you find what you truly deserve. Signed, Vicente." The message felt like a slap to her face. Lucy realized she had been tricked, and everyone around her had witnessed her embarrassment. A mix of shame and confusion flooded her, making her feel as if she was drowning. She quickly left the event, not daring to look anyone in the eye, rushing to escape the prying stares of the crowd. Nathan, witnessing the entire scene from a distance, laughed heartily. "Ethan, I've never felt so satisfied with revenge. You did an incredible job." Ethan smiled faintly. Sometimes, the arrogant need to be taught a lesson by the very things they've inflicted on others. Lucy returned home that night, her mind in turmoil, replaying the evening's events. She felt humiliated and deeply angered at being deceived. But what made it worse was the rapid spread of rumors in the company. The next day, when she walked into the office, she noticed the judging looks from her colleagues and the sly smiles, just like the ones she had once directed at Ethan. The events of the previous night had become the topic of gossip throughout the company, and Lucy couldn't hide her embarrassment. Marta, her close friend at work, approached with a faint smile. "Lucy, could you tell me what happened last night? Everyone's curious." Lucy tried to stay composed, her tone remaining as proud as ever. "There's nothing worth mentioning, it was just a misunderstanding. Vicente had something come up and couldn't make it. It's not important." Marta raised an eyebrow, smiling slightly. "Oh, really? But I heard you waited for quite a while without seeing anyone. Vicente really is a mystery, isn't he?" Lucy knew that Marta was subtly mocking her, but she didn't want to lose face further. She forced herself to appear indifferent, hiding her feelings. "Yes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There are things I don't need to worry about." Meanwhile, Ethan, Nathan, and a few other colleagues sat in their work area, watching the scene unfold from a distance. Ethan said nothing, only smiling slightly as he saw Lucy trying to hide her shame. Nathan tilted his head, chuckling. "You really amaze me, Ethan. You made Lucy experience the same feeling she once caused you." Now, she has to understand that no one can trample on others without consequences. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with satisfaction. Yes, Nathan. Sometimes, people need a lesson to understand the consequences of their actions. But I didn't want to be too harsh. I only hope that Lucy learns something from this. Nathan laughed, patting his friend's shoulder. Don't worry, you did the right thing. You didn't harm her, you just let her feel some shame. If Lucy truly has any self-awareness, she'll change after this. But the story didn't end there. Rumors about Lucy didn't just spread within the company, they quickly made their way outside. Within days, her friends and acquaintances also heard about the businessman Vicente and the embarrassing incident she had gone through. One day, while Lucy was sitting in her office, her manager Javier knocked and entered with a serious expression. He looked at her for a moment before speaking. Lucy, can you explain the rumors surrounding the event the other night? Lucy's heart sank, but she tried to stay calm as she answered. It was just a misunderstanding, Mr. Javier. Vicente couldn't attend because something came up. I don't think it's anything serious. Javier looked at her sternly. I hope that's really the case, Lucy. But these rumors are creating a negative impact on the company's image. I expect you to get everything under control and avoid incidents like this in the future. Lucy nodded, trying to hide her embarrassment and anger. When Javier left, she couldn't suppress her disappointment. She had once been someone admired, confident, and respected by many, but now she had become the center of gossip and distrustful glances. In the days that followed, Lucy gradually noticed that her relationships within the company were changing. Colleagues who had once been close to her, like Marta and Alex, started to keep their distance, no longer as friendly as before. They began talking among themselves without including her, and their conversations often ended when she entered the room. One lunchtime, as Lucy walked into the cafeteria, she saw Marta and Alex sitting together, laughing happily. When they noticed her, they stopped talking, their expressions revealing an awkwardness. Marta, Alex, what were you talking about? Lucy asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Marta looked at her for a moment, then gave a forced smile. Oh, just some random stuff. Nothing important. Lucy felt the isolation, but she didn't want to make a scene. She turned and walked away, the sense of being abandoned and alone growing inside her. She had once been the one to cause these feelings in others, but now, as she faced them herself, Lucy began to understand the pain that Ethan had endured. Meanwhile, Ethan continued his work, more focused and professional than ever. His colleagues' past mockery and scorn no longer affected him. Now, Ethan had become a confident man, admired and respected by many co-workers thanks to his persistence and his efforts to change. Nathan couldn't hide his joy at seeing Ethan's success and confidence. You've overcome everything, Ethan. You haven't just changed yourself, you've changed the way people see you. Ethan smiled, responding to his friend. Thank you, Nathan. I just wanted to become a better person, not for anyone else but for myself. And now I've achieved that. Nathan nodded, full of pride. You're no longer the Ethan of the past. You've become strong and resilient. A few days later, Lucy received an invitation from the company, asking her to attend a special meeting regarding employee evaluation. During the meeting, Javier candidly addressed issues related to her attitude and behavior at work, emphasizing that recent rumors had negatively impacted the company's image. Although she wasn't fired, Lucy received a stern warning and was asked to reflect on her actions. After the meeting, Lucy returned to her desk, feeling as if she had lost everything: her pride, her reputation, and her former confidence. She sat in silence, reflecting on her actions and the hurt she had caused others. From a distance, Nathan observed, smiling slightly. Perhaps she's finally learning her lesson, Ethan. You've given her a chance to change, and that's more valuable than any revenge. Ethan nodded, smiling lightly. Yes, Nathan. Sometimes, the biggest price isn't losing material things but losing the respect of others. I hope Lucy realizes that and changes. After the meeting and Javier's warning, Lucy grew quieter than ever. Her confidence and arrogance faded, replaced by a sense of contemplation and introspection. Those who once looked up to her had moved on, leaving Lucy with an overwhelming sense of loneliness. She no longer received admiring glances or compliments but only saw pitying looks from colleagues who had once been her friends. In moments of solitude, Lucy couldn't help but think about Ethan and what she had done to him. She recalled the times she had deliberately mocked him, the biting jokes she thought were harmless but had actually inflicted unspeakable pain on him. Now, facing the same situation, Lucy deeply understood the suffering he must have gone through. One afternoon, after work, Lucy decided to stop by the cafe where she had once seen Ethan and Nathan chatting. She sat alone, looking out the window, thinking about everything she had experienced and how she might repair the wrongs she had done. She realized that without change, she would forever be haunted by what she had inflicted on others. Just then, Ethan and Nathan entered the cafe. They both saw Lucy sitting in the corner, looking somber and contemplative. Ethan hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should approach her, but Nathan gave a slight nod, silently encouraging him to go over. Ethan walked to Lucy's table and sat down in front of her. Lucy looked up, surprised to see him, but then she lowered her head, quietly saying, "Ethan, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for everything I did to you." Ethan looked at her, his expression gentler than ever. "Lucy, I don't think you need to apologize. Sometimes, people need to go through things to realize what they've done. I went through a lot of pain because of your actions, but I overcame it and became who I am today." Lucy gazed at him, her eyes welling up with emotion. "Can you forgive me? I was too arrogant, too self-centered, and never considered others' feelings. I only hope I can somehow make up for my mistakes." Ethan was silent for a moment, then nodded softly. "I learned a lot from what you and others put me through. But I also learned to forgive, not for you, but for myself. Forgiveness brings me peace, and that's why I'm no longer angry with you, Lucy." Lucy lowered her head, overwhelmed. She hadn't expected Ethan to treat her with such kindness and understanding. A mixture of remorse and gratitude filled her, bringing a sense of relief after days of tension and shame. Nathan stepped over, smiling gently. "I always believed that Ethan would rise above it all and wouldn't let anyone hurt him for long. Lucy, I hope you've learned something from this and that you'll change." Lucy nodded, managing a faint smile. "Thank you, Nathan. I've realized that arrogance and selfishness never bring happiness. From now on, I'll live differently and learn to be more considerate of others." Ethan looked at Lucy, smiling gently. "Life always gives us lessons. What matters is how we receive them and change from those experiences. You were brave to recognize your mistakes, Lucy, and I believe that's the first step towards becoming a better person." Lucy felt as though a refreshing breeze had swept through her heart, clearing away the burdens and shadows of the past. She looked at Ethan and Nathan, her gaze filled with gratitude. "Thank you, both of you. I'll never forget this lesson, and I'll try to become someone worthy of everyone's respect, just like Ethan." From that moment on, Lucy began to change little by little. She became humble, learning to listen and care about the feelings of those around her. While it wasn't easy for everyone to forget her past, day by day, she gradually rebuilt her image in the eyes of her colleagues through sincerity and effort. Ethan also continued with his new life, no longer haunted by painful memories. He had transformed his wounds into motivation for self-improvement, and now he felt happy and at peace, seeing that Lucy had acknowledged her mistakes and changed. One afternoon, as Ethan and Nathan sat talking in the park, Nathan looked at Ethan with satisfaction. "You see, Ethan. You didn't just change your own life, you helped someone else change, too. That's something not everyone can do." Ethan smiled, his eyes gleaming with joy. Sometimes, life puts us in difficult situations, but through them, we learn to be stronger and more forgiving. Forgiving isn't a sign of weakness, it's a way to move forward. Nathan nodded. You've become a remarkable man, Ethan. And I believe that from here on, your life will only get better. The story of Ethan and Lucy ended on a humane note, with both having learned valuable lessons. Ethan found confidence and peace in his heart, while Lucy realized that arrogance and selfishness only bring loneliness and pain. Both had gone through ups and downs to mature and discover true meaning in life. Ethan walked forward on his new path, believing that every difficulty was an opportunity to become a better person. And Lucy, with a determination to make amends, embarked on her own journey, hoping to form more genuine and lasting relationships. The story concludes here, with a sense of lightness and happiness, like a final ray of light illuminating the lives of both Ethan and Lucy after all they had endured. The story of Ethan and Lucy imparts a profound lesson on the value of patience, resilience, and the power of forgiveness. Ethan, once a timid man accustomed to silently bearing humiliation, had to experience pain and disgrace to find his inner strength. Instead of wallowing in sorrow, he transformed the mockery into motivation for change and self-improvement. Ethan's transformation shows us that when we're pushed into the hardest situations, it can also be the moment we find opportunities to grow and develop. On the other hand, Lucy represents those who live with arrogance, selfishness, and a lack of compassion. She disregarded others' feelings, using them as mere entertainment. However, when she had to face shame and loneliness herself, Lucy truly understood the consequences of her actions. From that point on, she began to realize the importance of humility, listening, and respecting others. Lucy's transformation serves as a reminder that sometimes we only learn valuable lessons when we experience the suffering we once caused others. Furthermore, the story emphasizes the value of forgiveness. Ethan didn't choose a harsh revenge, instead, he found peace through compassion. Forgiving not only allows others a chance to right their wrongs but is also a gift to oneself, freeing us from resentment and unnecessary pain. From this story, we learn that kindness and perseverance pave the way to happiness, and true change comes from recognizing and rectifying one's mistakes.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.